There's something that's been ruining matchmaking lately, and you've probably felt it. Games don't slowly unfold anymore. They collapse. One bad invade, one lost turtle fight, or a single failed rotation, and suddenly, the match feels completely out of reach. It's not just a bad early game anymore. It feels like the entire game is decided within the first few minutes. Compared to older seasons where comebacks were common, today's MLBB feels brutally unforgiving once momentum shifts. Welcome back to Mobile Legends News. In the current Mobile Legends meta, snowballing has become noticeably more consistent and far more punishing than ever before, with early objectives, jungle control, and roaming pressure carrying so much value. Teams that gain even a small lead can quickly turn it into a full map chokehold. Recent patch cycles and balance updates have emphasized faster tempo and stronger early game impact, making recovery much harder once a team falls behind. This marks a clear shift from older, more comeback-friendly metas. In today's MLBB meta, snowballing feels stronger not because players suddenly became more aggressive, but because the entire game system is built to convert early advantages into permanent control much faster than before. What used to be a manageable lead in earlier seasons now feels like a beginning of a collapse, and the reason lies in how objectives, economy scaling, and map pressure all interact in a tighter, more punishing loop. One of the biggest drivers of this change is the value of early objectives, especially Turtle and early turret gold. The Turtle is no longer just a bonus fight for extra resources. It functions as a tempo accelerator that influences the entire team's economy. Securing it early doesn't just give gold to one player. It distributes value across the team in a way that immediately speeds up item progression. That means core heroes reach their first meaningful power spikes sooner, which clearly affects every fight that follows. At the same time, first turret gold has become even more impactful because it does not exist in isolation. Once a team takes that first structure, it immediately opens the map, creates lane pressure, and forces the opposing team into more predictable movement patterns. The combination of turtle advantage and turret conversion often means that by the 5-minute mark, one team already controls both economy and space, which is a dangerous position to be in under current pacing. This leads directly into another major factor: faster scaling and earlier item spikes. Modern MLBB has evolved into a faster economy environment where gold and EXP flow more efficiently through lanes, jungles, and objectives. As a result, heroes hit their core items earlier than they used to, and that shifts the entire rhythm of the game. Power spikes in MLBB are extremely important because they define when a hero can fight, rotate, or contest objectives. When those spikes arrive earlier, the timing windows between teams become uneven much faster. A marksman completing their first core item even slightly ahead of schedule is not just stronger in lane, but immediately more influential in turtle fights, tower pressure, and skirmishes around mid. When this advantage is multiplied across multiple roles, the entire team composition becomes stronger earlier in the game, which compresses the enemy's ability to respond or scale safely. However, raw golden items are only part of the snowball system. The more subtle and often more important factor is map control. Once a team gains an early advantage, they do not simply play with more damage. They begin to control information, vision becomes restricted, jungle entrances become unsafe, and rotation paths shrink for the losing team. This is where snowballing becomes less about kills and more about space. In MLBB, space determines options, and options determine decision making. When a team loses control of mid lane priority or river access, they are forced into predictable movements that are easier to punish. Over time, this lack of freedom turns into a full map lockdown, where even attempting to contest objectives becomes risky because the enemy team already occupies key zones first. This control extends naturally into jungle invasions and resource denial. Once a team begins momentum, invading the enemy jungle becomes less risky of a play and more of a structured way to extend advantage. Buffs and jungle camps are essential to maintaining tempo, especially for junglers who dictate early fights and objective setups. When those resources are stolen or delayed, it does not just slow down farming. It interrupts the entire rhythm of rotations. A delayed buff leads to slower clears, which leads to late rotations, which leads to missed objective fights. This creates a chain reaction where one small invasion can affect multiple future engagements without the losing team even realizing where the collapse started. Draft compositions also play a major factor in how snowballing has intensified. Modern metas heavily favor early game synergy and strong lane presence, which means teams are often built around securing control in the first few minutes rather than surviving late game. Heroes that can rotate quickly, pressure lanes, and contest early objectives are prioritized because they directly contribute to establishing tempo. When a team drafts strong early game heroes, they are not just aiming for kills, but for control of the entire map before the enemy composition fully comes online. On the other hand, drafts that rely too heavily on scaling often struggle because they are forced into defensive positions before their win condition is even active. This imbalance between early pressure and late game scaling is one of the key reasons games feel more one-sided once momentum is lost. All of these systems come together in the way small mistakes now cascade into much larger disadvantages. In earlier metas, losing a fight or misplaying a rotation often resulted in a temporary setback that could be recovered with patience, and just better macro play. Today, however, each mistake is deeply connected to multiple systems at once. A single death can mean losing lane priority, which leads to losing vision, which leads to losing objective setups, which eventually results in losing map control entirely. Because every layer of the game is now tightly linked, there are fewer neutral moments where both teams can reset evenly. Instead, advantages tend to stack quickly, and once a team starts building momentum, it becomes increasingly difficult for the opponent to stabilize. This is why modern MLBB feels like it snowballs so much harder than before. It's not just about players making more mistakes or becoming more aggressive. It's about a system where early objectives matter more. Scaling happens faster, map control is more punishing to lose, jungle resources are easier to deny, and draft strategies reward early dominance over late recovery. When all of these factors align, the result is a game where leads do not just grow gradually, they accelerate. And that acceleration is what players experience as sudden collapses, where a game that felt even suddenly becomes unwinnable within a few minutes. But for me, the real turning point in understanding modern MLBB snowballing is realizing there isn't just one change responsible for it. It's not simply stronger heroes or faster games, or even better, coordination alone. The key insight is that multiple systems are now stacking advantages at the same time, and they all start feeding into each other earlier than before. Economy is faster, meaning gold leads translate into item spikes sooner. Objectives like Turtle and First Turret carry more immediate map impact, meaning early fights matter more than ever. At the same time, pacing has shifted so that rotations punish mistakes more efficiently, and jungle control directly affects future objective setups. When all of these systems align, a small early lead doesn't stay small for long. It multiplies. That's why games don't just feel a bit harder to come back from. They feel structurally tilted once one team gains momentum. Modern MLBB rewards early efficiency more than ever before, where securing objectives, winning lanes, and controlling tempo all translate into rapid and compounding advantages, because multiple systems now reinforce each other. Mistakes are punished more quickly and more heavily than in older metas. Once a team gains momentum, the structure of a game makes it difficult to reset, which is why matches often feel more one-sided and harder to recover from once the snowball begins. Now I want to hear from you. Have you noticed the exact moment your game starts feeling unwinnable? Share your experiences in the comments and what usually triggers the snowball in your ranked matches. And more importantly, what strategies do you personally use to slow it down or fight back when the enemy starts taking control early? Till next time.